Alright, Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GreatMillStone that rule impeccably well. And Shalom to the Arkin that's pushing his truth and sincerity across the four winds. Alright, I just want to get into a quick video. And this video is going to be inspired by a situation, an experience that I had while I was at work, and it basically made me think of this scripture that you can see on the screen right here from the book of Sirach, chapter 13 and verse 15, and it says, "Every beast loveth his like, and every man loveth his neighbor. All flesh consorteth according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like." Right? "What fellowship have the wolf with the lamb, so the sinner with the godly." Right now, this is a deep scripture because it basically, goes into every, every beast loving his like, every man, loving his own kind and dwelling with his own kind. Because while I was at work, we had, a meeting, and, in this particular meeting, you had an array of Edomites, and you also had an array of Jake, Nigerians, and so-called Jamaicans, and the minority. Now the way this meeting was set up, which no one really noticed, for a number of minutes, is that everyone that was of Israelite descent was sat on one side of the table, and you had all the Edomites on the other side of the table, and you also had a few Elamites in there, about 2-3 Elamites, and they were sat together. All right, and then when I noticed this, it made me think of the scripture, man. Right? Because practically without even knowing, it was spontaneous. People just cleaved onto their own like. All right, they just sat together and they started reasoning and talking. Now, that's the spirit that Yahweh Hashem Yahushai has set in the world, man. Right? All people are meant to cleave onto their own like. You're supposed to dwell with your brethren. All right? So that's what made me think of the scripture. And that's what made me, want to put this quick lesson together, man. Because that's how it's going to be in the kingdom. All right? We're going to dwell among our own people, because that's how the Lord had done it in the beginning. And even when we go into the example of the Tower of Babel, the Lord didn't like that, man. When all the nations, they tried to come together, under one consort, that was wickedness, man. Right? So what did the Lord do? He threw it down, and he scattered them, and he changed their language so they could not communicate anymore, man. All right? Now let's go into Deuteronomy 32 and verse 8. It says, "When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel," man. So the Lord created that separation, man, and he separated the nations, and he, imparted the nations unto their own land, where that nation can then go and dwell, man. Right? Now that don't mean obviously, you can't go to that nation, man. Right? And you can't go there and you can't do business with that nation, but as a foundation, every nation is supposed to have their own land. All right, and every nation is supposed to dwell, wherever that nation dwells, man. You're not supposed to have places like the UK and places like Babylon, America, where every single nation is on one plot of land. Because what does it do? It creates confusion, man. Right? It creates confusion. And you can see that just for looking at an example of America today, looking at an example of all these nations upon the face of the earth that heapeth all people unto themselves, as it tells you in the scriptures, man. When you do that, it creates confusion and it creates wickedness, man. So that's why the Lord done this in the beginning, man. He created, the sons of Adam and that, and he separated them and put them in their own lands, man. Because they have different spirits. And every nation has its spirit, that Yahweh Hashem Yahushai has given them, and them spirits are diverse, man. All right. Now let's go into Sirach chapter 33, and I'll start from verse 10. It says, "All men are from the ground, and Adam was created of earth. In much knowledge the Lord hath divided them, and made their ways diverse, man. So all these nations upon the face of the earth, they have diverse ways, man. They have different ways of doing things. They have different customs, all right? If you meet an Elamite is totally different from an Israelite, man, right? Their whole spirit is different. They have a whole different vibe about them. It's the same with a Moabite or Ammonite. They have a whole different, completely spirit and way they do things. You know, even down to the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they assess things, the way they think is different, man. All right. In much knowledge, the Lord has divided them and made their ways diverse. Some of them have he blessed and exalted, and some of them have he sanctified and set near to himself. Without be speaking about you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we're near unto the Lord, man. We're set with Yahweh Hashem Yahushai because we're the apple of his eye, we're his chosen people, right? But some of them have he cursed and brought low and turned out their places, man. Well, that will be the other nations, you know, primarily the so-called white man, right? Because he's that cursed nation, man, that's going to be eradicated when Yahweh Hashem Yahushai comes back after they serve their slavery, right? And the other nations as a whole, really, you know, they were cursed people because, you know, they're not his chosen people, right? They fall outside of the lot of his inheritance, man, right? Which is Israel. As the clay is the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it as his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him to render to them as liketh him beasts. Good is set against evil, and life against death, right? So the Lord made 2 and 2, man, all right? And so is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. Now it says, verse 15, so look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are 2 and 2, one against another, man. And that's the foundation, you know, basically of life, is that you have 2 and 2. You have the earth, you know, you have the moon, and then you have the sun, right? You have the lightness and you have the darkness. You have hot and you have cold. It's a balance, man. As it tells you in the scripture, a false balance is an abomination unto Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. So the Lord made 2 and 2, man, right? That's a complete balance. So then you have, you know, the children of God, and then you have the rest of the heathen, man. That's the balance right there, man. All right. And, you know, that plays out in day-to-day life, man. You know, if you open your eyes and you're spiritual, you'll see these things play out in front of you, man. All right. Now, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 14. Be ye not evenly yoked with unbelievers, for what fellowship have righteousness with unrighteousness, man? That's another, you know, duality, righteousness and unrighteousness, right? You got good and the bad. And what communion have light with the darkness? None. You know, they're 2 separate entities, man, and used for 2 separate purposes, man. You know, the Lord has created all spirits for himself, man, you know, including the wicked for the day of judgment, man, you know. So I just wanted to, you know, put that quick video out there, man, because the Lord has created 2 and 2, man. And, you know, all people out there, you know, everyone wants to act like, you know, they love everybody and all this, but that spirit, you know, is being exposed, man, because it doesn't exist. All right, everyone cleaves to their own like, right, and that's just how it is. And, you know, with that, I'll say shalom.